These tips will not ever be covered in a networking video when it comes to like technical jobs. Trust me on that, okay? So stay tuned. Hey everyone, as an incoming Microsoft intern, this is one of my favorite topics when it comes to the interview process, this whole job search process. And this is how to nail your first impression going to events. I've been to so many events. You can see like how many stickers I actually have from going to so many events. So I have a lot of experience. I've studied psychology for a long time. I'm going to be giving you research-based advice, what I think can actually help transfer a conversation into a job offer. I've done this multiple times. So let's go ahead and start right now. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. Let's try to get 2 likes on this video. Ambitious goal. Let's go. Okay. What comes to mind when you go to these networking events? They sound so awkward and boring. Hey, how are you? And you know, these conversations which people start with are like, hey, how are you? What do you do? How boring is that? Okay. How are you is one of the only questions in the whole world which is like universally accepted, which you can answer with how are you. Like, I'll go ahead and say, how are you to someone. They'll say, how are you back? We'll just nod and move on with our day. That's not something you want to say when you go to an event, okay? Another question you should avoid is, what do you do? Okay, these are things which people will just be able to read off like this, okay? Hey, my name's Salman, I'm going to be interning at Microsoft, I live in the UK, I live in London. These things require like no thinking, is on like the super subconscious level. So it doesn't engage any like dopamine, it doesn't engage any sense of variety at all. Everything's just straight and consistent. And whilst yes, they're talking about themselves, it's not something which they're like thinking of. You want their brains to be active. You want to try and make them feel interested in the conversation, get them thinking and get them excited. Okay, so now we covered what you shouldn't say. I'm going to tell you why a lot of these things, what I'm going to say, works, okay? This whole misattribution of arousal. Now, any of you dirty-minded folks realize that arousal just means to awaken a certain feeling, but if you do want to turn it into some like date thing, I can turn it into that for you. When people go on dates, they might say, hey, let's go on a roller coaster or watch a scary movie. They associate this heart-bumping, beating, this heart-beating feeling with the partner, and that's sort of how this study goes, okay? So think about this when you're having these, one-on-one conversations at these networking events. You want them to feel excited, their dopamine levels to increase. They will associate that arousal of dopamine, so that awakening of dopamine with you, and be like, hey, I want to hire this person. I want to work with this person. And whenever they like think of you now, they'll be like, hey, this person's awesome, okay? You don't want them to be like, compare that to someone who's like, hey, how are you? How are you? Like, there's nothing there. There's no thinking. There's no awakening of any like feeling or emotion associated with your connection you just made. So, I mean, let's tell you how to do that. When I told you these tips aren't anything to do with like a technical related video online, I'm telling you, I've studied psychology. These are why. These are things I've studied myself, okay? And I'm bringing that to you, okay? Before I list off my conversation starters, do give yourself the challenge to try implement these and tell me which ones you choose, because there are a lot to choose from and you don't have to use all of them. Feel free to use whichever ones you feel most comfortable with. So the first conversation starter I'm going to tell you is, what is something exciting that you're currently working on? Okay, this is really great when it comes to networking with someone who's in a professional industry. You don't want to be like, hey, what do you work on at work? Because lots of these places have, privacy rules like NDAs. They're not able to tell you exactly what they're working on because it's confidential. So when you say, what is something exciting you're working on? This is potentially something which they're doing in their spare time. It could be something at their job. They get to choose. And when you ask them to talk about something exciting, it makes them think, okay? Something which they have to start thinking about, because there's probably a lot of things which go on. This is really great. Instead of just saying, how are you? What do you do? It makes them start thinking, and it enables them to talk about what they want to talk about, and it removes any awkward feelings of, hey, I can't tell you this because I'm bounded by these boundaries at work, okay? Another topic is to actually start talking about other people. So, and this isn't a bad thing at all. This is a question which is going to be like, hey, have you met anyone who's really interesting today? And then you can talk about, people love talking about, people they've met. Like, for example, I would love to talk about if I met the CTO or CFO. I love talking about all my experiences of meeting amazing people. I just love talking about them. And, that's another thing. When you remember these amazing people you've talked about, there again, this misattribution of arousal can be associated with you because you're excited when you're talking to me when I ask you this question. This is a common one I just love to use with anyone, just anyone. And instead of just saying, yeah, how was your day? Like, they can just say, yeah, it's fine, and move on. That's like this de facto standard response. Hey, yeah, no, my day was fine. Get them answering a question which is like, what was the best or the worst part of your day? Okay. That then makes them think, hey, there's so many events that happen. Which one would I say is the best? Because they want to show that they have a good day. People on social media, they're constantly only posting the best things. So when you ask someone what's the best thing they've had today, it gets them thinking they have to like really talk about something which they want to impress you with. And that also makes them get into that whole feeling of, hey, I need to impress this person. I need to tell them something which makes me seem interesting. And you flip the switch now. You're trying to impress them at the beginning, but no, now they're trying to impress you. So, a little bit of psychology tricks maybe. And by doing something for someone, by actually trying to do something for someone, it makes your brain think, hey, you like that person because you're doing something for them. It's like the whole psychology of when someone asks you for a pen. You give them a pen and you are doing a good deed for them. Your brain will now think, hey, I like that person because I'm doing something good for them. This is actually known as the Ben Franklin effect. Once you do a good deed for someone, you are now more likely to do a good deed for them in the future. So, we're upping that small thing bit by bit. Asking for a small favor can potentially boost your likability even more, and they'll be more likely to, hey, maybe talk to their boss or someone in the company about you. Next, I would say, hey, talk about something which is going on at the event. So say if someone just did a talk, you can be like, hey, did you see this amazing talk? Or even something, if you haven't seen a common talk, you can say, hey, have you seen that viral YouTube video which is related to this topic? And they either will say, no, I haven't, or yes, they have. If they say, no, they haven't, you can go ahead and show them if time permits. Or if not, you can go ahead and start talking about it. And that's something you can both connect on. And when you find this thing which you can connect on, double down on that, okay? Start talking about that a lot because I would love to talk to anyone about Microsoft. Literally, it's my hobby. It's my passion. Okay. Okay. It's literally, I can go on and on and on and on and on about that. And I'm associating those positive feelings of Microsoft with that person now. This misattribution of arousal. This is literally how I like to see it. Okay. And if someone says, hey, let's talk about Microsoft, I'm gassed. You can tell how gassed I am right now. I'm super excited. Pardon my slang. I'm super excited. So yeah, just if you find something which someone has a common ground and you both like something, double down on that. Go and talk about that as much as you can. Never let go of that. This works with friendships. This works with anything. Yeah, it's super amazing and it works really well. Hey, it's lunchtime now, so I want to have a drink. So I'm just gonna have a bit of water. Wow, this is really great water. Where do they get this from? Where do they source this from? How would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10? Now that does sound very funny and very weird. Say if you have a smoothie or something and you're waiting in line, this gives you something to talk about with people who are just in the queue with you. It's not just like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on? I want to work at your company. You start talking about something else, which can, again, these are conversation starters. Now, don't just talk about every single thing. I'm not saying to use all these conversation starters, but if you are in a queue and there's nothing to talk about, and you've got something in your hand and they also have it, you can start talking about it and they can, talk about, hey, let's go grab lunch or something like that, okay? Yeah. Actually, in this sort of scenario, we're all in this scenario where it's sort of the holidays, but we're going to go back into these networking and professional events. One thing you can talk about is, hey, where did you last go on vacation? They will think of an amazing time and they can talk about like what they did. But how do you actually start this? You could say, hey, I'm thinking of going on vacation. Do you have any recommendations? They will start thinking about previous times, think about good things. Again, misattribution of arousal, the same idea. You see how repetitive this is getting. These are just conversation starters. I don't want you to start talking about yourself at the beginning. I want you to use these to get them engaged. They start talking about themselves, have this whole misattribution of arousal, and you find some common ground. And this is really where they will start getting this dopamine rush, because they will be like, hey, I'm talking about something I like, you like it too. But if it does get awkward at all, then, just address the elephant in the room sometimes. That's the best thing to do, because you can be like, hey, this conversation's a bit awkward. I find it so hard to talk in conversations, and they just might find that funny, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, same. See how awkward I'm being. And I can be like, wow, this is awkward, isn't it? Okay, that's the funny thing. And that's how you get your conversation started sometimes. And this is where the whole idea of being weird can be actually a good thing, because being yourself is what you should always do. I love being weird, okay? Because if you're going to actually be working with them in the office, that's one of these goals, right? You want to be yourself, and there's no point faking yourself. And it's actually proven that being weird is a good thing, okay? Don't be afraid to be weird. Researchers at UC Santa Barbara actually found that being in a weird or unusual situation boosts creativity. And not only does it prove that you're more authentic and that you're showing your true self, which, they end up having to work with you anyway, but being weird, also, it was shown at UC Davis that, being weird opens people up to more opportunities and opens their brain up to more avenues. And this could be them potentially hiring you. They might be like, hey, this person, I like their character. Them being weird, they might not realize, but you being weird will open up possibly avenues for you being invited for a job interview. They might be like, hey, I like this person. Let's go ahead and give them an interview. Wow. This is a totally new thing, but they might not realize it's because you're being weird. So go ahead, try that out. Last bit here, don't cling on too long. You don't want to be, too weird where you're just holding someone's arm the whole time and they can't let go of you. You want to end it and give them the opportunity. You want to end it there and try to follow up, okay? This could be at the end of your conversation, they could be like, hey, we can connect on LinkedIn or give me your email. And there's this whole 80-20% rule where maybe only 20% of these people actually follow up. Don't just say, hey, nice to meet you at the event. Talk about something you both connected on, and they can remember that, attribution of arousal, misattribution of arousal, or that positive feeling with you. I would also say maybe give it 1 or 2 days. The way the long-term memory works is, you have spaced repetition. If you straight away follow up, they might be busy as well, but this isn't good for your long-term memory. If you space out, they will have to think about who you are, and then they might be like, oh yeah, and then that will solidify you more in their long-term memory. Long-term memory works with having stuff spaced out, basically. And yeah, when you start to forget things and then you remember it, it makes you, better remembered by other people. And yeah, that's just a few tips from me. Don't leave it too long. Do follow up. And yeah, I've gotten job interviews, job offers, which have started from conversations. So go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. Check out my next video in the series, which will come out next week. Let me know which conversation starter you're going to go and use. And yeah, I really enjoyed talking about this topic. I've, been very much into psychology for a long time. And yeah, hit that subscribe button, let me know what you want to see next. It's Salman MKC. Go ahead and let me know if you enjoyed. Bye.